I'm like in the process of working on my first R&R, and really kind of going back into the literature, to make my paper more well supported. And so this is a question that I've asked a lot of people, but I'm fascinated to ask folks who are committed to a Black feminist praxis in terms of how you orient to some of the practicalities of engaging in reading Black women's work, when there are still time constraints. And so for me personally, I can get lost in a whole weekend of just reading one book. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But when the R&R deadline is what it is, yeah, I can have some concerns with that. And so I wanted to hear from you guys in terms of one, like maybe what are some strategies that you use to like honor the work that you're reading while still tending to some of these external time constraints that we are placed under, and or two, how do you know when you're done reading for now, right? Like our Black feminist work is ongoing. And so is that an intuitive process? Do you have a community of people that you check in with? Like, what are some of those kind of like nuts and bolts of like, how do you honor this work while also still advancing forward? Yeah, so that is my question. Thank you all for your time.
I think I could take that question because I struggled through this last week um, as a junior scholar. I would say, going backwards, how do you know that you're done reading for now? Look at how many tabs you are opening. If you have more than 5 tabs, at least those other tens are not necessary for this article right now, because the more you read, the more you're losing your voice. You had a point that you wanted to make. So the more you're reading, the more you're losing the point you wanted to already make. And my mentor and advisor said, write what you need to write first, and then in a different color, come back. And if you recognize that there is a place wherever you have already written that you should be citing someone, mark it and come back to it. You could read the reading later, or you already have that reading. The work is always ongoing. Reading and the time constraint, it really depends on what you're reading and why. There are books I'm reading for pleasure, and I'm reading books of my colleagues, all junior scholars, and I'm reading across to engage in their work, because we're doing not work that's similar, but work that's coming out in the same generation of scholars. But then there's books that I'm reading from my mentor that I'm reading as a writer rather. So I'm reading as a student and I'm reading as a writer. So how are they writing their methodologies? How are they writing their introductions? Where is the spacing? Where is it published? Do I want to publish there? What are the criterias to write the way this person is writing? Is this a skill I want to pick up? Is this someone I want to not mimic, but amplify? So you do not have to read quickly, but some things can wait till like a summer reading. And also, some of the academic books have audiobooks. S- Speed up the audiobook. You could read an article and listen to a book at the same time. It's possible. Tricky, chaotic, but possible.
If I can hop in, I think part of your question, your second question answered the first. You talked about community. Um, we don't, we, our ideas are ours, but they're also part of community. Like when you earlier mentioned, like when they're writing, like some of what came up, and they honored that. And you can honor in different ways: thank yous, reciprocal support, right? So people sometimes just message me, do you know somebody's written on X? Can you give me a couple minutes to chat over it if they don't have time to like engage it? Engagement's also a long-term thing. It's not like you engage the world and then you start, right? So sometimes you go, I might not be able to engage this the way I want to, but I'm going to put it on my list to engage, but I'm going to honor it now and then continually engage the work as I move forward. And so, and there's different ways you can do that. Like for me, I have very little time to read now that did you get further along in the career and then you find yourself doing more for others and less time for yourself. But I will add a new book or two to my race theory course every year, in order to force myself. to engage fully and wholly and in community with my students, the material, so we engage it. But then there's other things I may not have time immediately, and it may take me a little while to get through it. And sometimes I get through half of it and get derailed, and then I come back to it again. I think it's about intentionality. And but it's also the work is collective and communal. And that also means engaging with others and talking with others, asking. Even my syllabus for my class, I crowdsourced. I went to, do you remember this? Like I put a post online. It was like, what are the readings that moved your students the most in these areas if I was to teach this class, that I must engage? Half of the readings I had not read before I taught the class. And I forced myself to read them with my students. And so I tried to create something that was community. It was a community kind of syllabus that I continually add to, and that I continually add new things and try to engage new work. And I engage it in community. So I do it with my students, I do it with colleagues, and I also honor that we have different kind of knowledge. So I was just writing an article with a former student who's now a great collaborator and friend. And we were working through this, and certain literature she knows really well. And I trust her because I trust how she engages the work, that I trust she'll do it with honor. Because I might not have time to read it all, but there's other things that I was able to bring up that she had forgotten or hadn't thought about. And so together we were collectively honoring, even if we don't have the same wells of knowledge. But drawing on it collectively, we were able to honor more and bring in more into the conversation, because we were both bringing in our like unique expertise. And so, and you can do that in collaboration, but you can also do that in community and a writing group. Everybody doesn't have to be an author to facilitate, because it's communal, right? And it's reciprocal.
Great.
See a
So
hand. I just want to say, especially for the topic that we're on, um, that well, congrats on the R&R too. So let us know when that is out so we can read and cite. But also, it's I would probably tell a student not to do a bunch of reading at the R&R stage, because you have probably honed in your own argument. But what you can do for anybody here is look through your reference list, figure out who you're citing. Is there more men than women? Are Black scholars represented? If there's something that you think might be missing, go figure, maybe you figure out who is the first person, like who is actually the thing you're supposed to read, not the other people, and you can read and engage that. But yeah, congrats, give yourself time, but don't, this is the R&R has to be turned in. So I wouldn't go too far, but I think it is a great moment to reflect and double check the citations before it's all the way submitted.